Barnum Gabbardi's Turtles Can Fly. Tim Lott, as I say, it's Iran-Iraq co-production. It's the first film to come out of post-Saddam Iraq. So it's historically significant, but as cinema, is it significant?
I don't know if I'm the right person to judge in many ways. I'm not the sort of person who goes to see Kurdish films on the whole, I have to confess. Perhaps I should. I mean, it was a hypnotic experience. It was a disturbing experience. It was a depressing experience. I mean, it made Vera Drake look like a Richard Curtis movie. I mean, at the end of it, it was so profoundly upsetting. It's quite hard to get through, and yet there is an enormous life to it as well. This kind of moonscape of these dispossessed, kind of this non-place in which one can hardly believe exists, and it's actually depressing to contemplate that it does exist, and one just keeps one's eye away from it, really, in many ways. And yet the incredible vivacity and power of these kind of non-professional actors are putting into this film, it really won me over, as a matter of fact. And I didn't exactly enjoy it, but I certainly found it, it stayed with me, and I find it quite hard to get out my mind. It's a very beautiful film, and a very upsetting one as well.
Julie, it's showing me we've had British and American liberals queuing up to give their view of the war. It's everywhere. Manchurian Candidate, we talked about tonight, Turner Prize, 3 of the 4 shortlisted writers, National Theatre full of it. It is refreshing to get, although it's largely the same opinion, to get it from the other side.
Yeah, I thought that's what was rather fascinating about it, actually. You felt taken in there. It wasn't the news, was it? We weren't watching TV news. You were right in there. And I agree with Tim. I think it's very hard work. It's got that funny... I have seen another Kurdish film, actually, and it was just the same. A lot of long shots, kids who seem to shout all the time rather than talk, very drained colours on that landscape. And yet, if you watch and watch and watch, it does something to you, actually, in the end. And it was a very, very deeply affecting film, I think.
It is affecting. Mark Homener, you criticised director's statements earlier. There's something he says in the press release which is very striking, where he says he went to Baghdad 3 days after the fall of Saddam, and it was like photographing a war rather than a supposed peace. And you get that in this film.
You do, although I have to say, personally, I think that it should be removed from its immediate political context, because I think the strongest thing about it is that it has an elegiac, kind of epic scope to it. I think that visually it is absolutely beautiful. I mean, as you said, it is mesmerising. It's like something that's taking place on the moon in an alien landscape. These extraordinary performances from these, non-professional performers. I think it's something that in 10, 15 years' time will still stand up in a way, it's not specifically related to this immediate moment in time. And I think, in a way, it being tied up with the politics of it kind of undersells it. I think it's an epic tragedy, and I think it's a kind of lyrical, elegiac poem and beautiful film.
So we don't undersell the international element. Some other films you've been looking at in this section.
I loved one that was actually comparable in a way. It's one called Nobody Knows, the Japanese film about some kids left in a Tokyo apartment, very young children, and abandoned by their mother. And slowly, as the months go by, they have to look after themselves. Again, children looking after other children. The only thing I felt was incredible about it was that they didn't really deteriorate fast enough. Well, that may say more about me and the sort of children I live with than anything else.
Mark Homener.
Well, I'm desperate to see the new cut of 2046, which is the Wong Kar-wai film, which played at Cannes. And when it played at Cannes, the thing that I felt, and I think you agreed, was that it looked like it wasn't the final edit. We couldn't make any sense of it.
It was supposed to go to Edinburgh and didn't get there.
Didn't go. Well, now it's been re-edited, and I'm now desperate to see whether, having gone in and recut the film, he has taken these extraordinarily beautiful images and turned them into something which is understandable and comprehensible. Because the fact is, it went straight over my head at Cannes, and I hope it goes straight to my heart this time round.
Well, we've discussed lots of films you'll see around the place in the next year or so. The London Film Festival continues until November the 4th. You'll find information on all the films on bbc.co.uk/Newsnight Review. Thank you to Mark Kermo, Julie Myerson and Tim Lott. Newsnight Review will be back next Friday at 11 with a review of the photography of Robert Frank and Sam Taylor-Wood. Now back to Martha.
Thanks, Mark. And a look at tomorrow morning's newspaper and the front page of the Daily Mail. Help Me, a still taken from the harrowing video released by the kidnappers who are holding Margaret Hassan. And the same story on the front page of The Sun. Don't kill me, hostage Margaret's desperate TV plea. A similar story on the front page of The Guardian. And lower down, Big Brother's next step, show that lasts forever. That's a town in Germany that's being built for reality TV. The Independent, Lies and Consequences, continuing their serialisation of Claire Short's book. She accuses Blair of misleading Britain over the case for war. The Daily Telegraph, 1.75 billion. That's the cost of advisers pushing through public service reforms. And then a story we were looking at earlier, Brown pledge to curb growth in spending. spending. That's in response to today's poor growth figures. The Daily Express secret home loan rip-off, and The Times, another photograph there of Margaret Hassan. These might be my last hours, hostage says. That's all from Newsnight for this week. But if you want to follow the US presidential campaign over the weekend, BBC 4 will be airing a full-scale political debate with a 600-strong audience at Harvard University on Sunday night. Kirsty will be back with more on Monday. Until then, from Mark and me and all the team, have a very good weekend.
In the 80s, bin Laden and the CIA came together in Afghanistan.
He gave me the Stinger missiles and $1 billion.
Believing they'd brought down the Soviet Union, each imagined they could transform the world. 10 years later, both faced failure. So the new right found another fantasy enemy.
It's terrorism, political terrorism.
While the extreme Islamists resorted to violence and terror. Out of all this came today's climate of deception and fear. The Power of Nightmares continues this Wednesday at 9 on BBC Two.
A country the size of Western Europe.
But now it's time for me to head to the heartland of Tibet. Hundreds of miles of wild and astonishingly beautiful landscape. If you want a good argument, you've come to the right place. The monks developed a sort of verbal martial art.
I'm totally unqualified for any milking of any kind, let alone yak milking.
Himalaya with Michael Palin. Sunday at 9 on BBC One.
It's Children in Need's 25th birthday this year, and Ozzy is going to raise a fortune by not using any swear words for 24 hours.
No swear words! You gotta be joking. I'm Ozzy, the Prince of Darkness. They expect me to swear.
So that's why we're having a big party for Pudsey instead.
Call 0845 607 3333 for packets full of fundraising ideas. Swearing not being one of them.
A rock and roll movie musical at 12:35 here on BBC Two. Rock, rock, rock. After Jules Holland. Not later, but now.